Hey, JulesBlessedVegan, and as always, welcome to my channel. And for those of you who are new, I know you can benefit. So I'm talking about the 20 traps that most people at some time in their life, it doesn't matter what your walk, where you live, or even what generation you're in, you will probably fall into. And yesterday it was, don't let me forget, the trap of playing the victim. So yes. And today is the trap of revenge. I think they say a revenge is a dish best cold served or something like that, which actually I don't really think about that if it's correct, but I would think they want you to cool down, right, before you actually act on something. I know revenge is just a bummer, and I'm blessed to not have a vengeful heart. I don't harbor things from my past per se. I mean, of course, I'm human, but I luckily am not one of those people. But when I was young on the playground, I would chase after people to get them back, and I'd give a nasty note at recess. And I certainly have written poison pen letters in my lifetime that were less than lovely. And though not an actual knife, they certainly cut to the heart. So I'm a little better about that, let's be fair. No one's perfect, and it just depends on where I am in my life. But largely, I have grown a heart of compassion. I'm able to calm down and assess things, and I'm able to see the brokenness in others. And certainly in understanding their backstory, I'm much more inclined to let things go. So this is the trap of revenge. Just as we've all been victims of circumstances at some point, there will be times when we have had things done to us by another. Oh my gosh, you're not kidding. And of course, sidebar. I've had a lot of things done to me, but one of these things, okay, I ran for office. I was only 19 years old, and I was in a relatively small town, 28,000 people. And this group, if you will, asked me to run for the Homeowners Association president. It was the homeowners for the city. And I didn't own a home. I was 19, but they got a loop where in the bylaws, it didn't say that you actually had to own a home. You only had to be a resident. So they were really getting me to run just to get revenge on the mayor of the town. And she was a wicked, awful person, I will admit. They never expected me to win. They honestly were just running me against her to piss her off, okay? And so I did run against her, and I won. Well, when she heard that I had won, she freaked out and insisted on a revote. I know, it's sounding very familiar to recent political things. To absolutely do a recount, which they did, and I still won. Well, I was 19. I mean, I'm a year out of high school going, now what am I supposed to do? I had like plans, and it was a 4-year term. So I did get that. Well, it was so interesting. She had a bunch of little cronies that were completely loyal to her. This is really funny. No wonder I'm so impassioned regarding our current political situation. These people were indebted to her. She was their everything. They would do anything for her. So the following year, I was graduating from community college, and I was fluent in sign language, and I was going to be translating for a deaf girl who was also graduating, and she was going to be sitting next to me. And so, we had on our cap and gown and everything, and we're walking our way up the aisle, and I'm ready to interpret for her. And all of a sudden, as we're getting ready to fill in and sit down, I get pushed out of the way. I'm not kidding you. I get shoved out of the way. And this other woman in cap and gown sits down next to her. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh. I mean, she's deaf. She needs a translator. Like, what are you doing? And then I zoom in and realize that it's one of these women from my city. Doesn't even go to this school. Cap and gown, doesn't even go to the college. And I was in the very front row because I was going to be translating. And unfortunately, this deaf girl did not have anyone translating for her, but this villain sat next to her for the ceremony, and I basically had to sit in the back at my graduation. Really interesting, unbelievable. So the revenge of this party to get me into office, the revenge of those people to knock me out of my little humble graduation. A lot of weird things have happened like that to me over time, and that just absolutely came to mind. So it says, when this happens, there can be a compelling drive to settle the score. And certainly at that age, I was just like, it made me insane, and I absolutely wanted to settle the score. In some ways, God ended up doing that. 3 of those 4 women died of brain tumors. I'm not even kidding you. Really interesting time. So it says to repay evil with evil. That's the desire, is to pay evil with evil. But I wasn't coming from an evil place and didn't want to do that. This is the important takeaway right here. It says we should resist this drive with all the strength we can muster. And that's probably straight from God, because there is no good way. There are no one escapes being victimized by this circumstance. So it reads, revenge is not only wrong in and of itself, but we ourselves are harmed when we cause evil in someone else's life. There's always a consequence. It reads, this is not to say that we should not seek justice when there has been a crime committed or some other harmful action has been taken. Yeah, so absolutely, but we should leave justice in the hands of those who are empowered for this purpose, even if they don't always do it perfectly. So yeah, I mean, there's no promise there. When I got raped by this guy, I didn't know what to do. I was living alone. I ended up probably taking a shower. I went to the, police department, and they did a rape kit test and whatever, and whatever evidence they were looking for wasn't there, so they couldn't act on the situation. So it's not always going to bring justice, but you certainly have a right to stand up for yourself. Don't get me wrong. I may not seek revenge, but I do go through the channels of writing the rebuttal if somebody has done me a wrong, by going to small claim courts if I feel that there's a valid reason to do it, by writing a letter to the editor if there's a need to be said. I mean, I do all those things, but attempting to go through the proper channels. So it says sometimes life is just not fair, and that's a hyperlink. So there's a whole article about that. But we don't have the authority or the right to take matters into our own hands, like the Crips and Bloods, right, in downtown LA. And at times they have peace because they get tired of all their little kids dying. They just get tired of all the death. So I totally understand that, but that's where people decide that they're going to be, what did they say, the judge? Oh my gosh, I can't think of that one. Where they're all the parts, judge, jury, the judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah, someone decides that they have the right to be the judge, the jury, and the executioner all at once. They call it the law of the jungle because it's what is done in the jungle. Unless you live in the jungle, you should avoid this trap. Okay, so before I get to the greatest line of all, I'm going to just read this cleanly for you since I interrupted so many times. Just as we've all been victims of circumstances, at some point, there will have been times when we've had things done to us by another. When this happens, there can be a compelling drive to settle the score, to repay evil with evil. We should resist this drive with all the strength we can muster. Revenge is not only wrong in itself, but we do ourselves harm when we cause evil in someone else's life. This is not to say that we should not seek justice when there has been a crime committed or some other harmful action has been taken, but we should leave justice in the hands of those who are empowered for this purpose, even if they don't always do it perfectly. Sometimes life is just not fair, but we don't have the authority or the right to take matters into our own hands. They call it the law of the jungle because it's what's done in the jungle. Unless you live in the jungle, you should avoid this trap. As someone once observed, revenge is like drinking poison yourself and expecting the other person to die. Let's read that again. Revenge is like drinking the poison yourself and expecting the other person to die. That's the joke of it. well, I'm not going to call because I'm going to get back at that. It's like, okay, who's it hurting for you not to call? They're out partying. They're at Disneyland for the day. You're in your house sulking and trying really hard not to pick up the phone. Who's being punished here, right? Well, I'm not going to go to that party because that person's going to be there. Guess who didn't get to go to the party? You. And now you're drinking poison, hoping the other person will die. Newsflash, TikTok, you're about to exit the planet. Like, come on. You know, they say in the 12-step program that if you kill yourself in the first 5 years, you've killed the wrong person. And I so get that. The anger and all those things that people are harboring, the hurt, the shame, inevitably it belongs to the perpetrator, not to you. So that's just a lesson that, praise God, I'm still alive to have mastered. And lastly, it says, it's also like burning bridges over which we ourselves must cross. Are you really going to burn that bridge at the risk of you having to go back in that direction? There won't be a bridge there when you're ready to go back. Anyway, that's why prayer is inevitably the answer for me. Okay, people, like if you like, join us if you haven't, subscribe. Let me know in the comments below how I may support you in faith, in weight, in food, in whatever it is. And if I don't know, I'll look it up. And let me know what you thought of that. Until we talk again, best of all, know that you're blessed.